learn something new when they are showing their fighting skills off.
Buenos días amigos y seguidores de SCANPE Perú, nos encontramos aquí en las instalaciones del Museo Vikingo en la ciudad de Suecia, en Estocolmo, y se va a presentar un espectáculo, una lucha de la época vikinga, así es que veamos.
So, during the Viking Age, fighting culture was quite broad and large. So when we imagine ourselves Vikings, we have these honorable warrior, all wanting to die a glorious death to come to the afterlife, Valhalla, where they would eat and drink eternally, and along Odin's side fight giants and monsters. So when we fight like this, or they fight like this, I'm not going to fight anything. We don't want to harm anybody, and especially not me. So we're going to display some hit points where it counts as a hit. So you see there, the upper torso, the lower torso, and down to the legs as well to a smaller extent, and the upper arms as well. So if you get hit in one of these points, you're dead. So you're going to see this displayed on later in the duels. So before we go into the techniques and all of that, we're going to showcase some of the weapons we're going to use here today. So which do you think were the most common weapons used during the Viking Age? Axe, I hear. Thank you. Another one maybe? Sword? No, not as much swords. More similar to the axe. Did anyone say spear? This lady over here, thank you so much. So the spears and the axes are the most commonly found weapons from the Viking Age. Due to a larger extent that they're much cheaper to produce. You see, they're made mostly in wood rather than iron or steel. So wood here in Scandinavia and trees are much more common than iron mines, and much easier to produce than the iron and the steel. The people of Scandinavia were quite poor at the time as well, so you needed cheap weapons. So for that reason, axes and spears were most commonly used. So they had other functions as well, and did not be just weapons. You could have used them as chopping axe, or if you had a spear, you could use it to fish as well. So a multifunctional tool, basically. So why do you think the reason was for them not using swords? So if you take a look at the swords by Aaron and Jacob here, and also as well, you see they're made mostly in metal. So like I said, quite expensive to make in that case. So they were very exclusive at the time, so only for people with higher status or who were rich. And due to their exclusivity as well, they could oftentimes be inherited or even in some cases have names. So, weapons are usually separated between two categories. We have shorter weapons, swords for example, or shorter axes. And then longer weapons, of course the spear and the Great Dane axe. Very talented bunch.
It's like a circus clown.
Other weapons commonly used and found from the Viking Age are knives, of course, and axes. Here we have an example of a sax. And then clubs and bow and arrow as well, of course. So when you're fighting in an army, it's best to have a combination of both long arms and short arms. So we're gonna see some techniques here by our Vikings. So should we start off with the swords or the axes? What do you think? Axes. And since I only see hacking and slashing, my fellow friend Oscar over here is gonna explain to you what the techniques are.
One of the most important aspects that you have to remember when you're fighting is that you can do mainly one type of damage, that is the tactical damage, whereas the some of the control ends, and then go for hacks, slashes, stabs, and all of the different kinds of horrible body physical damage that you can inflict upon your opponent. One of the strengths with a sword is also that since you have this long bladed weapon, you can use it to control your opponent's weapon if they also have an edge. For example, Jacob here, if he would have a sharp sword and he would chop on the wood of yours axe, that would stick ever so slightly. So when you are pulled back, Jacob can use that force, that motion, to guide his own sword into a killing blow. Moving on to the longer weapon. We'll start by having a look at the Dane axe, the long two-handed big axe. Now just as a small axe, the big axe can be used as a hook.
Bueno, amigos y seguidores de SCANPE, este ha sido un espectáculo desde el Museo Vikingo, desde la ciudad de Suecia, desde el país de Suecia en la ciudad de Estocolmo. Nos vemos hasta la próxima.